Greetings everyone, and let's get straight into reviewing the living daylights out of the new TTArtisan 35mm f/0.95 lens. This one is designed for mirrorless camera systems with APS-C sized sensors. Here is the coverage you get if you shoot with it on full frame. On an APS-C camera, that 35mm focal length offers a perfect standard field of view. Neither wide angle nor telephoto make it very useful for all kinds of different applications, and the incredibly bright maximum aperture of f/0.95 means you can get stunningly out of focus backgrounds. It's a fully manual lens, manual focus, manual aperture, and no built-in image stabilization, and I'll put its price in the description below. It'll probably be cheap. I'll also list which mirrorless camera systems it'll be available for, although almost certainly all the usual suspects: Sony E, Fuji X, Micro Four Thirds, and so on. I'd like to thank TTArtisan for sending me a copy of this lens for evaluation, although as usual this is a totally independent review. We'll be looking at both its strengths and its weaknesses. The lens's build quality is almost exactly what you'd expect for an inexpensive Chinese optic. It's dead simple, metallic and solidly built, not to mention small. The metal grooves on the focus ring look super distinctive, but feeling a little rough on your fingers, but the focus ring does at least turn smoothly with just enough precision for shooting at f/0.95, although of course manually focusing will slow you down a lot. As you can see here, the lens exhibits moderately strong breathing when changing focus. Then, at the front of the lens, I'm delighted to report an aperture ring with clicks every half an f-stop, which I love to see for stills photography, and the aperture stops are spaced nice and evenly too. Less encouraging was an encounter with my arch nemesis, the dreaded screw-on lens cap. Gah, I absolutely cannot stand these things. If ever I end up in room 101, or hell, I'll be forced to swim in a pool of them and tasked with attaching them to various cheap Chinese manual focus lenses. The lens does not come with a hood. Overall, as I mentioned, the build quality is absolutely dead simple here, as simple as a manual focus lens can get. Let's see about image quality now. I'll be testing this thing on a Sony a5100 camera with its 24 megapixel APS-C sized sensor. No in-camera corrections are available with this lens. At f/0.95 we see pretty decent sharpness in the middle of the image and acceptable contrast. However, purple fringing is present on contrasting edges, and the whole image suffers from a red color cast that you will want to correct in editing. Although if you're using auto white balance, then hopefully your camera will take care of all that. Over in the image corners, picture quality is dreadfully soft, as you can see. Stop down to f1.4 and, well, it's just as bad in the corners really, although back in the middle, that purple fringing is going away. Stop down to f2 for razor sharp quality in the middle, and also that red color cast is almost gone now. Back in the corners though, picture quality is still very soft. At f2.8, the corners are still poor, but stop down to f4 and they begin to improve, and also that red color cast is totally gone now. At f5.6, we're finally seeing some clarity in the corners. At f8 and f11, we see further improvements which lead to excellent sharpness across the whole image frame. Pity we had to stop down so far though. Overall, well, there's no avoiding the fact that this is a very poor performance. However, the lens is at least pretty sharp in the middle of your images, and that weird red color cast is easy to correct. Alright, let's move on and look at distortion and vignetting now. The lens suffers from moderate barrel distortion, although it's mostly confined to the edges of the image. At f/0.95, the corners are a little dark, but not as bad as I was expecting. Stop down to f1.4 or f2, and they brighten up quite quickly. The lens's minimum focus distance is 35 cm, getting you reasonably close to smaller subjects. However, at f/0.95, that close-up image quality is dreadfully soft. Contrast has disappeared into what looks like a puff of smoke. f1.4 isn't much better. At f2 we see more contrast, at f2.8 more contrast and more resolution, and at f4 close-up image quality is finally very sharp again. Overall a poor show there, though. Let's see how well the lens works against bright lights now. At f/0.95 there's some absolutely dreadful glaring and flaring to be seen, which will really interfere with your images. Stop down to f2 though, and quite a lot of contrast comes back into the scene. While we're working in the dark, let's take a look at chroma smearing. At f0.95 in the corners of your images, well, this is just about the worst chroma smearing I've yet seen after all my time testing camera lenses, and that is saying something. Just look at it. Again, at f1.4, it's barely any better. At f2 though, it's beginning to reduce, and at f2.8 it's better again, and at f4, it's finally gone. Ouch. Anyway, let's zoom out and look for sunstars. You need to stop down to f8 for those to begin to appear. At f11 and f16, they get pretty strong, although personally, I've never been a fan of 8-point sunstars. Let's take a look at the quality of this lens's bokeh now. Those out of focus backgrounds do suffer from just a little bit of edginess, as you can see, but I've witnessed worse than this before. And finally, related to bokeh, let's take a look at longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f0.95, well, you can't see anything here really, due to that terrible close-up image quality. Stop down to f2, and an image begins to emerge with, yes, some colourful fringing on bokeh highlights. It's still there a bit at f2.8, but at f4, it's finally gone. Overall, well, my conclusion is simple. Like other ultra-bright Chinese 35mm APS-C camera lenses on the market today, this thing is soft, with a host of image quality problems, but at the end of the day, it's cheap, and you can get some pretty stunning images with it, if you don't need lots of fine detail being captured, that is. Did you know that the TT in TTArtisan stands for The Thinking? Perhaps they're implying that 7 artisans don't think about their products. Well, that's enough stirring things up. Thanks for watching, everyone. If ever you've thought to yourself, boy, Chris just doesn't make enough content for me, well, you're in luck, as down in the description below you can find a link to my Patreon page where all kinds of exclusive bits and bobs are available to supporters of this channel, and those who do will surely get a warm, fuzzy feeling inside for helping me out so much. Ciao for now, everyone.